Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another rousing episode of Something Something with Eric Newman. I am him, and I'm coming to you live in Times Square. Today's episode of Something Something, the Something Something we will be discussing, will be how soon you should sleep with someone. Let's make this episode really quick. Women until marriage, men whoever they want. I'm Eric Newman from Times Square, too. Okay. Wait, it was actually funny, though, because the other night I was watching Mrs. Doubtfire, which is one of my favorite movies ever. So funny, right? I think, like, there's that scene where, like, Sally Field and Mrs. Doubtfire are, like, hanging out with the kids, and then Pierce Brosnan's there, and then she pulls Mrs. Doubtfire to the side, and she's like, Mrs. Doubtfire, how soon after you and Mr. Doubtfire, ended that you slept with someone? And she's like, never. Once the father of your children is... I have a two-television impression, but the whole thing was like, once the father of your children is out of the picture, you should swear to a life of celibacy. It was like so funny. But anyway, it just occurred to me. But that's not the reason we're here, to quote Mrs. Doubtfire, although it's definitely worth a rewatch. And I think trans people don't like it. But anyway, so let's talk about how soon you should sleep with someone. Let's start with guys. Most guys are just trying to have sex. Guys aren't holding out. But we can and we should. And I do. I've always kind of been that way. Hey, fellas, I'm going to propose something to you, okay? It's crazy, crazy world where, like, you also decide when and if to sleep with a woman. How about that? How about you also have the ability to hold off on sex? And I really urge you to hold off on sex. And there's a multitude of reasons why, and we're going to get to all of them. What if, like, sex, hypothetically, was just, like, built on connection, and, like, the more you connect with someone, the more you want to sleep with them, and, like, we didn't just want to, like, come all the time? Like, what if that was, like, an alternative? It is an alternative. I learned many years ago, and I think I always kind of knew. I was very mature in that way. But I learned very quickly and more as I kept going through the dating process that, like, I would just rather go home and, like, masturbate than, like, go home with some, like, random ass woman, like, the vast majority of the time. I don't actually think I've ever had a one night stand. I think if we consider a one night stand being you meet someone at a bar and fuck them that night and then things are over, I do not believe I've ever had that. And I'm not judging anyone who has, unless you're a woman. But I'm just kidding, Allie. But Allie's here. You'll know who Allie is if you watched the most rousing episode of all the rousing episodes, episode 6, where we recap my misogyny, which Allie admitted wasn't actually that misogynistic. I think, like, yeah, I would rather just go home and, like, masturbate. And that's why, like, porn was so helpful to me for a really long period of time, because I relied so heavily on it because I knew I didn't really want that. Not that porn, as we've discussed in the previous episode about porn, not that porn is healthy by any means, but, like, to me, I saw it as an alternative to, like, just going home with, like, some person I don't know, because to me, it felt like the lesser of two evils. Not that that's evil, but you know what I'm talking about. But I feel like most guys aren't like that. I feel like most guys, like, see, like, especially when they're drunk or whatever, see, like, vagina, see, like, every woman is like a walking vagina, and then, like, all the other body parts are attached to the vagina. But it is essentially a walking, talking vagina. And then everything else, like the legs and the arms and the eyes and stuff like that, like, they're attached to that big vagina, right? So that's how a lot of guys see it. I don't see it that way. So I think, like, the connection's very important. And I've never, ever slept with anyone I'm not really attracted to. Like, I hear stories all the time, like, throughout the years of guys, like, my buddies, like, close friends calling me up, and they're like, bro, I feel like I want to vomit. I slept with this girl who was gross last night. Like, whatever. I don't feel like women have that story as commonly as men do. Like, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I feel like you guys are, like, much better at, like, separating, like, pairing the connection with the physical attraction. So I think, like men like called their buddies the next day and they're like, yo, I fucked this girl who was like so gross, but like whatever, man, I was like wasted. Like, I don't think that story is as common with women. Obviously, it happens to a fair degree, but like, I do think there's like more to it for them most of the time. And I don't think like, even if a girl does have a one night stand with a guy who like they don't see again, like, I still think there's like there's like connection to it a lot of the time. Like, I think it's like we like hit it off all night and we went to like a bunch of bars and like we talked all about life and it was like a wonderful night and then like we were just both wasted and we ended up having sex. But like, I don't think it was like as purposeful as like a guy generally walking to a bar and being like, I just like will fuck anybody in here. Like, but I like that I'm different. Like, I've always felt like, and you hear the story a lot with women where they'll be like, I was like really physically attracted to this guy. And then like he opened his mouth and with like 3 minutes, I was like, absolutely not. Like I have that. I have that thing, that superpower that you ladies have where you can really like, where you could really like not want to fuck a guy because of the dumb shit that comes out of his mouth. I have it on the reverse end. Like you could say really dumb things and I could be like, you're so hot. My God, look at those titties and look at that ass. But like, she's retarded. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't want to have sex with her. And I think that's a wonderful quality to have, Allie, right? I know you're ashamed that I just said titties, ass, and retarded in the same sentence. I get it. But like, I feel like I think the sentiment of it is that I have the quality that allows me to decipher and to have a high standard for the person that I have sex with. Anyway, there's so many benefits to waiting as a man. Remember, we're covering men right now. There's so many benefits to waiting as a man, right? Like, by the way, I remember my buddy Terry, may he rest in peace. This is I wear this band in his honor. He died at 33 of stomach cancer, and I love him and I miss him. And he really was instrumental in helping me become the misogynist I am today. And I just love him. But I just did that for Allie. So anyway, Terry used to like, I remember like post-college when he moved back to New York, he would invite me to bars and like he would just like literally walk in there, get as wasted as possible. And I watched him approach every single woman at the bar until one of them would have sex with him. He was just like, her. No. Yes, okay, she's coming home with me. That was his approach. I've never had that approach. My approach was always like, I'm going to find like the girl who could like potentially be my wife at the bar. We'll have like a 4-hour conversation. She's not going to hook up with me. Maybe at the end I'll steal a kiss or whatever, but I'll get her number. And then like, maybe eventually it'll lead to sex, but probably not because I didn't have the skill set to be able to actually close back then. But we would go on like a nice first date. I would get too needy. I would ruin it. But that was my whole mantra. I was like, I want to get to know somebody. She's beautiful. I love her eyes. And Terry was just like, I'll fuck anything. And I respect that way too, but I don't think it's necessarily healthy. And then like while I was talking to the girl that I had a crush on at the bar, there would always be like 1 or 2 girls throughout the night who would like be aggressive, like aggressively flirt with me or like basically let me know that she would probably go home with me or something. And I would get like a little, I would be like, no, I'm having a nice, pleasant conversation with this woman. I don't want this aggressiveness from you. Get out of here. And also, like when women are really aggressive, when anybody's really aggressive, but speaking as a man, when women are like really aggressive as far as like wanting to have sex with you, like it's like pretty like it's a huge turnoff because it's like, also, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, I need to be the creepy one in our dynamic. Like, I take pride in that. Like, I'm the creepy one, okay? Don't take that away from me. But yeah, like the way like society's been set up, it's like, you know, guys want to have sex with women and they have to figure out a way to do it and prove themselves to women in order to do it. And I know feminism challenges that a little bit, but I think we're still like generally in a society where it's like men make it known they want to have sex. And women are kind of like, well, like, you know, let's see, like, prove to me that you're worthy of having sex with. But the wonderful thing about being a guy with self-respect is when you're happy with yourself and you're living a life you want, you have options, you don't have to do it. Like, right? If you don't have sex, you get the preview of Crazy for free. That's the best part of it, fellas. Like, I was talking to a girl like a year ago. You get the preview of Crazy for free. I was talking to a girl like a year ago. right? And we were like friends and we were talking and like it was a little bit of a toxic dynamic. We didn't sleep together because of work reasons. Like we both worked in close proximity from one another. So we decided to be mature and not sleep together. And we got into like massive fights before we had even slept together. And I was like, I have the preview. I see it. I see the crazy. It's been shown to me. I'm internalizing it. It's there. It's out there. And I witnessed it. I still had sex with her. But I at least was able to recognize that I saw it before I had sex. And now I've sworn like I'm not having sex with anyone if I see signs that there's like instability like leading up to it. Because I'm like, okay, well, sex is never going to make somebody less crazy. Whatever version of crazy you're dealing with in a person before you sleep with them is going to be amplified once you guys have sex. Undoubtedly. So if you're already seeing signs, again, I'm talking from a guy's perspective right now. We will shift it over to women. But right now, as a man, if you are seeing signs of crazy before you have had sex, that crazy will get worse. That's for sure. But what I've realized about most guys is they're so desperate to have sex, they'll accept anything. Like they're just like, whatever. Like, so she's out of her mind, but like the sex is good. It's like, who cares if the sex is good, dude? Like, I mean, it's good that the sex is good, but it's like, don't you just want like a peaceful existence attached to great sex? Like I do. And you can have great sex with people who aren't crazy. That's something that maybe is ignored a lot. You can have great healthy sex, dude. It exists, you know? It's probably not as obvious, but it's there. But my point is, if you're a guy and you have a lot of options, take your time, get to know the women as well as you possibly can. But I think women generally have like the right approach here because like women are much better at like I said, preparing the connection with the sex. Also, my views. This is like kind of a new like groundbreaking thought in my own mind. My views on women, on when women should have sex with a guy, have changed a lot also. Here's the thing with women, and I know it's tough, but there's this stigma of when women should have sex with a guy, right? And a lot of judgment and slut shaming actually comes from the other women. Because if every woman went out there and had sex on the first date, then the value of sex would drop. And men wouldn't feel like they would have to do as much to get it because it's always been given, right? So that probably, the repercussions of that are probably like men being not as gentlemanly, not making as much of an effort, right? Sex is an important thing to withhold from a man if you're maybe not getting what you want out of him. Like, I don't mean to make this sound like this like huge manipulative game because again, as I've said in previous episodes, like I'm trying to steer as far away from game playing as possible. I think it's just like, again, like a defensive tactic to not get hurt. But it's no question that that the most powerful thing a woman can do is withhold sex from a guy, right? Like because that's like a thing that a guy really, really wants. But here's where my stance has changed more recently. Like I said earlier, like a lot of the slut shaming comes from other women. And look, if I'm being quite honest with you, which I've tried to be this entire podcast, men ideally would prefer a woman to have as little sexual history as possible. In an ideal world, a man would like to fall in love with a virgin who somehow fucks like a porn star. That is the ideal scenario for almost every man. Let's be out here. We'll ask the men around. Zoran, is that a pretty fair statement? John, a virgin who knows how to fuck like a porn star. Okay, universally accurate. Perfect. But a woman who has never had sex but fucks like it's her job, because it's so hard to imagine the woman you love with anyone else, like before you or during, obviously. But enough about women in relationships that I used to hook up with. It's not realistic. And also, the thing I've realized as I've gotten more mature, there's an emotional maturity that comes with a woman who has experience, like who has dated different people. It's important. It's important, like just in every conceivable way, like it's impossible to remove the sexual aspects without removing the emotional and mental maturity that comes along with dating someone, getting to know someone, being in a relationship, dealing with conflicts, going through breakups, starting new love. Like all of that stuff, like kind of like builds character in a person. And for me, like with the amount of experience I have, I wouldn't be able to. I do not believe there is a woman on earth who hasn't had sex that I would be able to have a great, deep, meaningful relationship with, because sex is so much about connection, and without having that connection ever, you're not really understanding like like sexual connection at a deeper level, which then in turn affects emotional connection and mental stimulation. And like there's so many factors to having sex and to having a history and to dating other people. Like ideally yes, but it would never be something realistic in my life that would work out. So like I've actually learned to embrace a woman who has a lot of experience, even if like at moments that sparks a lot of jealousy and like maybe even like resentment or anger, and like in a momentary way, like that we have a much more chance at a sustainable long-term relationship, in my opinion, with someone who has experience and who has, you know, like has had partners in their past that they could stem memories and experience from. I didn't even realize how jealous of a person I was, like, because I fell so deeply in love with my almost fiance. Yes, Allie, we're going to continue to call her that. But like anything I found out about her past, like hurt me so much. Like it wasn't even like rational. Like it was just like I would find out something, like she had a fling with someone, and the boyfriends didn't bother me. That was the weird thing. Like it wasn't like the long-term like relationships that bothered me. It was more of like those like 2-month flings or something. And I was just like, and my actual like initial emotional response was like, how could you let him take advantage of you? And like I was kind of like treating her, she was this like helpless victim to like something she clearly chose to do. And it was like fine. Like maybe she did want a relationship out of him. Maybe he wouldn't commit, like whatever, which is obviously like a lot of the case with men and women dynamic. But like the person that is presented to you is the person that's presented to you based on all their experiences. Like I am a different person today than I was at the start of my relationship with my almost fiance. And at the end of my relationship with her, like everything creates you. Like every memory and every experience you have goes into this like equation that like continues to like build who you are as a human being. So like I don't think you can have the person you want without the experiences they've had. And so to me, the trade-off is worth it. The as long as a woman didn't go fucking crazy, because I do believe, and I think we could probably go deeper into this, but there's some level of sexual experience with a woman. Yes, and a man too, but I think more so with a woman, that like I would personally not want like a woman who slept with like 50 guys or 60 guys at like 22 years old. Because to me, that's like, it's a sign of instability. Like I know a lot of people may argue with me about like I've made my feelings on, and I know Allie, you gave me notes back on like the porn star OnlyFans episode that we covered, and like I'm not going to apologize or back down on any of those like opinions, because I still believe there is like a huge amount of instability and dissatisfaction and unhappiness that's attached to like being in that line of work. I can't celebrate it. I just can't. I would do that. I'll have a sex worker on. Yeah, that's a great idea. John, you know a lot of no. Hey Ronaldo, would you mind us looking through your phone and yeah. What? We're just trying to get some options. But anyway, as I said here, like, I think there is some level of instability attached to like just, but I think like I think the average girl who like goes away to college and like parties, and I feel like they just they'll have some level of sexual experience, like, and they'll have relationships, and they'll have shorter relationships, and like I think that's just like a part of being like a woman in modern society. And so like as much as like that may hurt me if I like fall in love with someone, or I'll have moments where it's hard, like at the end of the day I just have to be like, get over yourself, Eric, and it is what it is. And if this is the person you've chosen to be with and love, like, to some degree respect her past and like what led her to becoming the person she is that's been presented to you. That's the person you fell in love with. I have a buddy, we argue about this a lot because he can't get past it. And he's like, if a girl sleeps with him on the first date, he's like, she's a whore. Like, I'm like, okay, maybe, or maybe she just had like a great connection with you. Like, that happens with women all the time. Like, women will go on, like, I've met so many women who will tell me they've gone on like months of bad dates, like from Hinge or whatever, and they haven't found anybody they're like really interested in. And then they'll have like a great night with a guy and go to like a string of bars and take a walk on the water and get food and like build what feels like it's could become a great connection, and they're like, you know what, fuck it, I haven't had sex in like 6 months, like I'm gonna fuck him. And that's not her trying to just like get some new dick because she hasn't had it. Like that's her feeling that with a guy for the first time in like many months that she's willing to take like a leap of faith and see if it works out, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. And like the thing about women is once they know they like you and love spending time with you, the question of sex is on their mind. So it's like, so that's like, okay, well, if he did well in the first interview, let's see how he does in the second interview. And the second interview is the sexual interview, right? So when a woman is single and is friends with the guy and nothing happens for months and months and she keeps getting to know this guy and she doesn't really want to sleep with him, it's usually because as much as she likes hanging out with him, she has a feeling that the second interview is going to be bad. Allie, can we agree on this? You're friends with a guy for a while, right? He's clearly crazy about you. You love spending time with him, but you don't want to sleep with him. You're totally single, don't want to sleep with him. It's usually because you have an inkling that the sex is probably not going to be that great. But the sexual interest isn't there. But that's sparked by the idea that you think it's just not going to be like, you're not going to be turned on in bed. Like you're not, right? Not attracted to him. Right. Kind of the same thing, but guys like always, but I'm tired of this notion of guys being like, if a girl sleeps with you on the first date, she's a whore. It's like, it's just not true. And by the way, there's women out there who will sleep with like one guy a year, literally. But every guy she slept with has been on like the first or second date because when she feels it, she feels it. Is that fair to say, Ellie? But I got to go into this a little deeper, and I respect that strategy, by the way. But I don't like when women like weaponize sex. Like women will be like, I'm not having sex with him anytime. I'm not having sex with you anytime soon. You have to prove to me you're worth it. I've heard that like a million times. It's like, oh, okay, so you want to hold sex hostage to get a guy to commit to you? That'll work. First of all, you're making it all about the sexual conquest itself, and you don't even realize it. You think that you're doing this like noble thing or like the smart thing when you really like a guy to be like, I'm going to withhold sex as long as possible. But the truth is, like, now you're making the relationship specifically about the conquest for him to sleep with you. And you don't even realize it. Like, there's a part of doing that cheapens the sex even more. It's like, hey, take me to dinner a bunch and act like a gentleman long enough and you can have this. It's like, that's basically grooming a man, to be like, okay, this is what I have to do to sleep with her. It's actually a bad game because then fucking you becomes the focus, Where if sex isn't made as big of a deal, you just do it when the timing's right and it just happens. Like the focus of the guy becomes more about getting to know you than about sleeping with you. But I get it. Like you don't want to fuck a guy who doesn't mean anything to you, and you shouldn't. It's not healthy. But women sometimes hold sex hostage to make sure a guy wants to be with you. And it's like, ladies, do you not have enough confidence in yourself to be like, I can sleep with him quicker because I feel the connection and I believe in it. And of course he's going to stay around because why would he leave me? I'm great. That's real gangster right there. That's gangsta. And I'm not saying this solely because I want all my fellas to get laid as quickly as possible. I'm saying this because it shows the ultimate confidence in a woman to be like, I'm interested in you possibly for a relationship, and I'm not gonna play by this like arbitrary number of dates game where it's like I'm gonna wait 4 dates to have sex with him or 5 dates or 3 dates. It's just whenever I'm feeling it and it feels like the moment, I'm gonna do it. And I know I trust our connection and I trust that you want to be with me because I know how great of a catch I am. So I'm confident that even if I give you the sex, you're not gonna walk out the door. That's fucking gangsta, ladies. That's it. Like, I never felt that way until very recently, by the way. I like really, really like went over it in my head and like thought about it. And yeah, like the idea of just like withholding sex and making it this huge deal, like you don't get this until you prove to me. It's like, okay, great. Now you've just made the conquest specifically about him fucking you. Like that's not a good move. But like I said, men want sex and sex alone sometimes, completely detached from any specific woman. And that means a lot to men. So as a woman, if you go, I feel the connection, I really like you, and I want to see what our sexual chemistry is, so I'm going to allow you to have sex with me, and if you want to go, go. I know that I'm a catch. That's true power. What? I think I was defending women. Allie? There is a lot of mediocre. Most. None. Allie brings up a good point. There are a lot of mediocre men, none as mediocre as the men in this room right now. It is connection. It's qualities like women are so good at like, identifying like great qualities in like a partner or like a father, you know? They're like so much better at that than we are. They like scan a guy. So I think it's not about the dick. It's about the, like, whereas for men, it really is sometimes about the pussy. It really, truly is. Like, I'm saying there are a lot of men out there who will just literally be like, it's a hole, like, legitimately. And Allie, that's very rare for a woman. That's rare for a woman. Men are disgusting, 100%. But I'm saying is, like, even the disgusting women, there are, like, you put the most disgusting woman in a bar in Times Square, and she sits there. I mean, disgusting, Allie. Okay? Disgusting. Is she not getting dick by the end of the day? If she's sitting in a bar in Times Square, Zoran, from 3 p.m. till midnight, is somebody going home with her? Right. If you put the most disgusting man at a bar in Times Square, is a woman going home with him? Right, that's what I'm saying. Mediocre, or someone that she was like a bad breakup or something where she was so emotionally invested that she's like, I don't want to go there again right now. Like, I just need to have fun. And maybe like the relationship really wore her down for a while or whatever. And she's like, I just want to like have fun with a guy that I have a connection with that's like I'm laughing with all night. And it is what it is, you know? So yeah, exactly. I don't have any movie references here, Zoran. What about the, do you guys ever see Sleeping with Other People? Yeah, it's not as big of a film. Well, I don't want to, I mean, When Harry Met Sally is like the obvious one to talk about, right? Yeah. I kind of really believe holds true to this day. I think that's what makes When Harry Met Sally so amazing is that it's like, it never feels old. It feels like it's always relevant. And those like stereotypes that Nora Ephron, who, and I don't even know if like most women who love When Harry Met Sally know that it was written by Nora Ephron, who's a female, who's, you know, a woman. It just speaks to women so well. And why I love it is that I don't know, like, do you think anybody would consider like When Harry Met Sally like anti-feminist at all? No way, right? Well, that's the thing. She writes Billy Crystal so well. Nora Ephron writes Billy Crystal perfectly. She writes Meg Ryan perfectly, and she shows the contrast, like the polarizing contrast of how like women approach relationships and sex and how men approach relationships and sex. And there is overlap. The commonality is that we all want a deep connection and ideally would want like love and sex all at once and whatever. You know, there's that scene where, I mean, it's one of my favorite scenes, but like Billy Crystal and her, like, I think they're putting out like a carpet in Billy Crystal's like loft. And she's like, they're talking about their bad dates from the night before. She's like, oh my God, this date was horrible. And she's like, it must have been a dream date compared to my nightmare. I mean, how much worse is him leaning over the table, pulling out a piece of my hair and using it to floss or something like that, right? And then he goes, that's a dream compared to my nightmare. He's like, we start diving into small talk. I made a joke. She didn't laugh at it. It's like nothing. He's like, man. And then Meg Ryan, they just sort of squat, like kind of like bewildered. And Meg Ryan goes, it might be months before we go on a date and have a good time with someone else. Maybe even longer before we sleep with someone. And he's like, oh, I slept with her. I think that is like that scene is just so like, I think that's the difference. I think that like women are not going to sleep with a guy most of the time that they're not, even if they're like objectively good looking, that they're not like feeling it with, that they're not having a good time with. And I think if men aren't having a good time with a woman, as long as they think she's hot and maybe not even always that, if they have the opportunity, they may just do it. And I think that's the difference. But yeah, I'm so glad When Harry Met Sally still stands the test of time because it's amazing. Anyway, my point is, just summing things up, there's no rules as to when you should sleep with someone, but just feel it out, baby. Feel it out. Look inside yourself, and if the answer is yes, let the man inside you. And that is my advice. Anyway, thank you for joining us for another rousing episode of Something with Eric Newman. I'm here in Times Square. I'm saying goodbye. See you next week.